Hello and welcome back, everyone. Happy Friday. This one's a little later in the day because this morning I did go to a museum, kind of local museum close to me, Bowers Museum. There was an Asian comics exhibit there, and looked through that, and that was pretty nice. But back on to the Tinto talk that we are going to be looking at, and that is going to be the maps of specifically Iberia. This is going to be a map rundown. This is kind of just information regarding the maps. We're going to be looking at map pictures, and that's mostly what it's going to be. It's going to be kind of a more laid-back talk through the maps type of thing. We do see there's going to be a little bit of information available for us, but for the most part, it's not too text-based. It's in fact just map-based, which is everyone's favorite if you're a map-playing game or map gamer, which we all are. Hello and everyone, welcome to the second post of Tinto Maps. No happy Friday for us, big sad. We're really pleased about the great reception that the first one had last week. I really enjoyed looking through them last week, and about the great feedback that we received. Just so you know, we have 70 more action points from it that we will be implementing as soon in game. That is fantastic. So they took the feedback and they made a list of 70 things that they are planning on. I'm assuming that this isn't 70 changes that they're planning on making based on the feedback, but I assume it's going to be 70 things that they, at the very least, look at and confirm whether or not they want to change. Today we will be unveiling the new map of Iberia in the super secret project that everyone knows is Europa Universalis 5, but the corporates don't want people to... We can't say it's Europa Universalis 5. Watch it be something else. That would be so wild. Speculation, if it's not Europa, what is it? So let's start showing maps without further ado. Big nice. No more ado. So we have, it barely zooms in, but we do have this map of Iberia. We have Navara, we have Aragon, we have Portugal, we have the Crown of Castile, we have Granada, and we have Morocco, which is a little bit interesting. Someone was commenting somewhat a little bit regarding the borders, that one of the reasons that Granada was able to hold on to for so long, like 100 years, because they held on to this territory for basically another 130 years, was because they were one of the first ones to implement the usage of guns. I thought that was a little interesting, little bit of a tidbit. I forgot if it was, I saw it on Reddit or in my own comments section, but that was interesting. The situation in 1337 shows a strong crown of Castile under the rule of Alfonso XI, who has overcome his problems of troublesome minority. That sounds like a euphemism for some bad behavior. To the east, we have the Crown of Aragon. It's named that way, even if it doesn't currently appear like that on the map, which is fighting for hegemony over the Mediterranean, an offspring of the Kingdom of Mallorca, ruled by a cadet branch of Aragon since half a century ago. That has also a couple northern possessions centered in the Pepiguin and Montpellier. To the north, we have the Kingdom of Navara, which is looking a little bit bigger than it normally does. Is ruled by a French dynasty. Its titular queen, Jean, a member of the Capetian dynasty, being married to Philippe, Lord of Evreux. To the west, Portugal has a tense relationship with Castile. Yeah, that seems like a little bit... I would be tense too. With the war having been fought in 1336. To the south, we have the Nasrid dynasty holds power in Granada, backed by the Marinids of Morocco, who have a foothold on the peninsula centered around the Algericas and Ronda. And yes, Andorra is a starting country. Andorra? Where's Andorra? Andorra. Do we see Andorra here? Is that little speck up here? If anyone knows where Andorra is on this map, I don't see it. But that is a little bit of a nice map. Okay, well, let's see stuff in more detail. Here we have the locations, which is just absolutely gorgeous that we have all of these individual locations that... Like, there's so much detail. Like, I can imagine you, like, looking at the very, very fine-tuned details, shout out to the honks outside, the fine-tuned details, like, early on in your campaign where, you know, these passageways through the mountains are, like, strategically important for your battles, and then as the grand scale of your run increases, it becomes, like, something that's not so relevant. Note, we are aware that there are some locations that could be added here and there, and this was one of the first maps that we created, and we weren't completely sure about the location density we would like to have in the game. So, okay, maybe a few less than they would like. Some examples of possible locations that we'd like to add during a review would be Alicante, Tarifa, Albarca, Tordesillas, Monzon, or Montblanc. Mont Blanc is probably supposed to be a French accent. Also, you might, or French pronunciation. Also, you may notice that Zaragoza is named Saragossa. This is not final. It is because we are using it as our testing location for the dynamic location naming system, as it has different names in Spanish: Zaragoza, Catalan, Saragossa, English, Saragossa, French, Zaragoza, or Arabic, Zaragoza? Or just Zaragoza, and all of them with just different spelling. So, very exciting here. We have a nice look at things from the locations. Here we see the provinces. The provinces, like, it would be neat if provinces were dynamic, but that's just, like, crazy, right? That has to be an absolute nutter type of thing if provinces could be dynamic. But we do see kind of the big provinces, which is kind of, in terms of size and scope, this is much similar to what I feel EU4 is like, where you only have provinces, you don't have this locations bit. But the locations bit is probably going to be really fun for navigating military on the map. We got the wee-woos outside. Someone did something illegal, or they broke something. Depends on which one. Although it looks a bit like the modern provincial borders, take into account that those are based on the provincial reform of Francisco Javier de Burgos, which were also inspired by the cities and provinces that are accountable for the Servicio de Milzones during the reign of Philip II. Pour one out to the person who hopefully makes it. I think that sounds like an ambulance. Alright. Yeah. Also, please don't focus on the province names, the language inconsistency, because we were also using them as a testing ground. Okay, fair enough. This is not something I could criticize or really comment too much anyways. Let's take a look. And this is like this part's so cool to me, the different systems and figuring out what's named what. Apparently they're using some geological survey information that they have in order to make this, but we see the different biomes here, or the different climate.jpg. We see the Mediterranean, not for all the Mediterranean. Where I live, in terms of Southern California, the climate is like a Mediterranean climate, and I remember thinking that was so fascinating learning about it in school, that like there's like 7 or 8 biomes, and one of them is called Chaparral, and then like Southern California and the Mediterranean is mostly Chaparral. But we do see a little bit of interesting deviations. We see oceanic kind of on the coast up here, Mediterranean, then we see cold arid down here, a little bit of continental. All right, show us now the topography, which is going to, we think, give a lot of bonuses. And this is something that someone had commented about earlier as to one of the reasons why Granada took so long for the Reconquista to take care of Granada, on top of Granada paying tribute to Castile. And it was only during the Castilian Civil War that Granada was eventually, or following the Castilian Civil War, that Granada was gone for, or they went for it. Is like, you look at these mountainous regions, including a ton of impassables we see here with the stripe lines through it, and so probably an easier area to defend. We see the hills here as well. Looking at the topographical map might be an interesting thing that you end up doing in this game when planning or thinking through what you need to do militarily. I hope that that is something that is a play pattern that you maybe at the very least consider if you don't already know the topography of the region you're fighting in. This type of thing could be a little bit interesting, and yeah, I do like that map. And then here we see finally the vegetation level, where we are assuming that farmlands are going to be generally kind of better territory, or at least I am assuming based on EU4. And we see farmlands, sparse woods, and this is also going to be relevant for the construction stuff too, right? We don't see a lot of woodland here, so maybe you have to import wood as Spain. I'm not really sure how that'll check out. That was like one of the things that we knew we would have to do a lot in Victoria 3 when we were playing Tunis, or planning our Tunis run before the game come out. I remember doing that. I think I even had some videos for it. We were just like, yeah, we got to import wood from Russia, which is kind of what we did. Now you just cry because you don't have any wood, and it's just obviously the best thing in Victoria 3. Iberia has one of the most complex terrain feature distributions in the entire world. We've also discussed this week that we're not really happy about the vegetation distribution, which we'll be reworking, so feedback on this topic is especially very well received. My understanding is that Tinto is like somewhere around here in terms of their headquarters, so if there was a region that they were to get right, it certainly would be Spain, right? And then here we see the culture map mode, where we see, I am assuming, I don't know if the striped lines means that there is some Andalusia in like this Castilian area, or some Basque in the Castilian area up here. I think that would make sense. I guess there's a lot of Andalusia kind of all throughout Iberia, which, you know, no one expects the Spanish Inquisition. The truth kind of hurts with that one. But that certainly makes sense historically as to why Spain was one of the most rigorous with cracking down on heresy and this type of thing, or aggressive in the sort of stuff. It's the legacy of pushing the Moors out of Iberia in the Reconquista, which you do see a little bit of this sort of legacy in regards to the cultures that are remaining, or this is how I'm reading it. We see Australianese as well, which is okay. And then Catalan and I thought this was Castilian initially, but yeah, Catalan instead, and Aragonese. All right, pronounce this stuff poorly today. Quite the standard cultural distribution here, based on different languages of Iberia. Australianese was still a language back at the time, although close to being opaqued. Okay. By Castilian after 1 century of joint ruling. The Andalusi represent not only the Muslim inhabitants of Granada and the Strait of Gibraltar, but also the Mudafar community spread throughout much of the territory. So that is what we are seeing here, is the spread of a lot of the Muslims throughout the now Christian lands, formerly Muslim lands. Here we see religions, and the religious map mode is very similar to the cultural map mode in terms of the spread. The Sunni populations here match the Andalusia populations on the previous map. Although it's not shown in the map mode, there's another important religious community in Iberia, the Sephardic Jews, who inhabit several cities and towns. I assume that you have to reach a critical mass in order to get the full color, and then you need a critical mass in order to get the stripes. We do see here some provinces that have partial striping, and then some provinces that have full striping. I'm guessing this has to do with proportionality, and this does seem like a pretty good representation of the thing in the map mode. So I think that looks pretty nice. And then here we see the raw goods. This is also a map mode we'll be revisiting next week, and feedback is also very welcomed. A curiosity, for the first time in a Paradox Grand Strategy game, there is a Mercury resource in Almaden. Oh, we have Mercury. Can't touch that. So this is going to be, I'm so excited for this to looking at this type of thing to become very information dense. I really, really want where the various things to be, various goods to be something that you look at in a thoughtful way while trying to figure out what is it that you should do. Now, I don't know where exactly they said the Mercury was. Well, I mean, we can read it. The problem is I don't know where that is on the map. The Almaden, I do not know where that is on the map because I'm not knowledgeable about these types of things. Perhaps I should have found it beforehand. We do see a little bit of coal up here, and a little bit of coal up here. From Victoria 3, we know that there's coal and iron up in this region, quite a bit. But I'm not seeing the Mercury anywhere. If anyone sees it in the comments, feel free to drop it in the comments. But I'm excited for this to be something that's you look at and it be a very information-dense type of thing, and you to plan your strategies on how you're going to develop not just your locations and your provinces based on what things look like in terms of what resources are where are you going to start trying to build cities if you can. Oh, there's the Mercury. There we go. It's right there. It's right there. We found Waldo. It's right next to the gold. Big nice. how exactly are you going to approach resource extraction, you know, which resources are best, all these types of things are going to be so interesting. I mean, like, you can make spreadsheets for, like, not only goods themselves and, like, how valuable the goods are, but how valuable their production up chains are, which is going to be something that is, I think, more relevant in something like EU5 based on how their trade sounded like than something like Victoria 3. And here we see the markets, which we see, I think, 4 markets here, or no, 5 markets. We see the edge of this market that stretches into France, although we don't know what it's called, or we'll just read this before. This is the current distribution of markets. Please take into account that it is based on the current gameplay status of the system and won't necessarily be its final status. Man, this person's qualifying every single one of these things, which is fair enough because gamers see, like, the thing and then they're like, this is the way it's going to be, and so they're qualifying every single picture saying this might not be what we get in the final thing of the game. We tested in previous iterations having market centers in Lisbon and Burgos, but they weren't working as we wanted, thus we only have one market center in Sevilla and Barcelona. As the markets are dynamic, it might be possible to create new market centers, so a Portugal player might want to create a new market in Lisbon after some years, although having access to the market of Sevilla is juicy if you get enough merchant capacity in it. So we see here a little bit of striping. I think, is the striping mean that's where the trade center is? And this is the Sevilla trade center. This is the Barcelona trade center. This is I can't read this here, Alcazar something. We have the market up here. It's going to be very exciting. I wonder if is there a reason why this is darker colored than areas closer? That's a little bit curious, but the strategic decision on whether or not to, like, open a market or close a market, or trying to have markets have certain goods in them but not other goods in them for some reasons, or building certain industries because the markets look a particular way, and then having that change when someone else makes a new market. Like, there's so much dynamism in this game that we can tell already, and we haven't even gotten into, like, stuff with, like, local flavor and local advantages and bonuses for specific countries, which I'm expecting to see, although I think a lot of EU4 people hate the country-specific bonuses and they want kind of more emergent gameplay. And then here we see the pops, and that's going to be all we have for today, with France next week. But taking a look at the pops, we do see they be popping off as they do, or the various population counts. This is just kind of like a wall of numbers. I think we see 59,000 up there. Is that the biggest number we've seen? There's a little 50,000 next to it. I think 59,000 so far is the biggest number I've seen in regards to population centers. I suppose looking down here at the trade center, we don't see an enormous amount. Then we see 31,000 or 39,000 up a little bit north. Let's see, the capital is, 79,000, yep, 82,000, 90,000, okay. And so this will be also, like, another consideration you, of course, layer on top of everything, is because you're not going to be able to just look at, like, resources. You're going to also have to look at pops. And so, like, we have this 90,000 spot, right? It produces wheat, okay. We have this, this 82,000 spot. What is resource there? Horses. And so, well, what about something like precious metals or something like this? Do we have anything that looks especially good just based on reading it? We see 52,000 here, kind of in the middle, livestock. I suppose saltpeter right here, relevant for a gunpowder. We have 41,000 people there. And so this will be, how easy is it to move pops? Can we exploit the resources we have as a result of pops? Definitely very excited for this. Pops are, like, such an important resource in Vic 3, but they move around a lot. It's easy to move the pops, generally speaking. Like, if you build it, they will come. Here we see spices down here in the south. But I also like that if I cycle between these, it's exactly overlaid. That's so nice from, like, looking at it from this perspective. We can just kind of, you know, quickly discern. Like, for example, we could look at climate here, and we see that there's farmlands, and then if we look at the resource map, we see, hey, there's some wheat on the farmlands, some wine and olives on the farmlands. It makes sense and it transfers over kind of well. The farmlands down here, we see silver and spices and clay here. So maybe this is the really kind of rich area, but let's see how many pops there are down there. There's a decent smattering. We see it 82,000 here. Is that 117,000? Oh, so that's the trade center. And so we see a combination of what looks like pretty dense population as well as resources that kind of look good in silver and spices, and also clay as a building resource. And so maybe this is a really, really strong area, kind of at the start of the game for Spain, especially because it is housing, of course, the trade center right there. And so kind of interesting cruising through this and thinking about how we are going to end up playing this game, at least from the perspective of map interpretation, which of course is what's available for here today. But that's it. That's Tinto map number 2. We're taking a look at Iberia, aka where we're going to be taking as North Africa, because we're going to reform Carthage. The fall of Carthage being, of course, the worst geopolitical disaster in the last 3 millennia. But that's a tale for another time. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm thing, hit the notification bell, etc., mostly etc. And other than that, have a happy Friday.